My guest today is an author and entrepreneur who built and sold his company for $140 million. But it's what happened after the sale that's what makes his story so unique and hit different. In his book, The Remembering, he talks about things like identity, purpose, and also what happens when you think that you have everything you've ever wanted, and yet it doesn't feel so good. We're going to get into all of that and so much more. Very excited to have this guest here. Welcome to Dare to Overshare, Peter Kennedy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So the first thing I like to start on every single episode is a vibe check. So tell me, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, as you sit in this chair right now, how are you?
Yeah, I love that. At our company, we do the same thing. Before every meeting, we have check-ins. And they're not just like, how are you? It's like deep personal stuff.
Yes, love that.
Yeah, so I'm feeling very grounded, like charging at life, which is not always the case, but I'm in this mode right now where I'm able to really slow down and just, it sounds cheesy, but see the miracles all around us. Like everything I see is just, I'm just blown away by it, And so just taking and receiving that in and knowing that, listen, that always doesn't happen. You go through these cycles and I'm just in this really amazing part of my life right now. And I'm just, super grateful for it.
That's awesome. It's really cool to be able to see, like you said, the miracles in everyday life, just looking at a flower bloom outside and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because when people say that to me, when I'm not in that mode, I'm like, dude, shut up. I mean, like, what, the flower's a miracle? The flower's a miracle, like sitting here with you, like being in your presence of what you've created. It's a miracle. Just seeing what you've created and sharing this with people, dude, it's amazing. So
I appreciate that. And also what you've created, which is why we're here today. I'm so excited to get into this. So I read your book, The Remembering. I told you that I read it. I was on a cruise. I was chilling, living my best life, reading your book. And I was so immersed into it. I feel like I was with my family on the cruise. And I feel like if they were trying to like get my attention or something, I was just so in the book. I was like, hold on, let me finish this page. It's a page turner. It's really good.
Thank you.
So the first thing I want to talk to you about is you had a company called Tagger. You sold it to Sprout Social for $140 million. Crazy. For those of you that don't know what Sprout is, I actually use it every single day. It's a social media management tool. So take me through the exact moment in your body, in your mind, how you felt when you got that call, that email, whatever it was, your sale went through $140 million. What did you feel?
Yeah, so I was up in Michigan. We have a little cottage up on the lake up there, and we had spent this whole summer, like 15-hour days, just doing due diligence. It was breaking, like back-breaking work. And when the final ink hit the paper, I thought I was going to have this like relief of like, finally you made it. Because I worked my whole life for this. Ever since I was like a little kid, I wanted to do this. And when it came through, none of that happened. I didn't feel that joy and satisfaction. I felt depressed, honestly.
Was it instant that you felt depressed?
Instantaneously.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I felt like an asshole because who sells their company and is like, you feel depressed? I felt horrible about that as well. And I didn't realize why I was so depressed, but I was waiting for this feeling of just, self-worth really to come through. Because I think what I thought I was building the company for is not what I was really building the company for. And it wasn't until I started to do the work that I finally understood really what that depression was and why I didn't get what I thought I was going to get.
So did you go into that sale, leading up to the sale, did you think that the money was going to make you happy, or what did you go into it thinking? Like, what was going to be that thing that was going to bring you the joy?
Yeah, I mean, my entire life, success to me was the ultimate like landing spot, right? Once you're successful, then you're happy, then you're successful, then you're people will love you and all these different things, right? And I felt like I would feel successful when that finally happened. And I didn't feel successful, because really what I was looking for was self-worth. It's so funny. Like I wanted, like, I thought the heavens would open up and like the golden cloak would come over my shoulders and people would be like, we love you so much. No one cared. Like literally no one gave a shit. Even my family, they're like, okay, well, what are we doing today? I'm like, I just sold my company. They're like, who cares? And that was crushing for me because I thought that people would see me differently. Well, they didn't, dude. They see me who I am, and they loved me regardless, But it was more of an internal journey of mine to find that kind of self-worth.
So when you say that you thought you would feel success, how did you define success back then? It may be very different than how you define success now, and we'll get into that. But back then, how did you define success?
Yeah, so my grandfather was super successful in business. He was just this amazing businessman and had these ethics and morals that just no one else had that I knew. And when I was a little kid, I wanted to be him. I wanted to like start an international business. That was my goal. And so that was success for me, financial success, but really just building not an empire, but building like something that mattered in the world that changed people's lives. And a big piece of that was financial, but that wasn't the main driver. It was building a legacy for myself, and and then, again, when you sell something and no one cares, it's like, oh shit, what was I really building? And I've talked to a lot of founders and they all say the same thing. The minute they sell, it is just this moment of depression for them. And because what they're building, they think they're driven by ambition. They're not. They're driven by wanting to be relevant and valued in this world, and which is a driver. It's not a bad driver. It just helps people get to where they need to be. But when you really get down to the core of who you are and what that means, it's not really a good metric of success.
It's interesting. So you said you've talked to other founders and a lot of them feel the same way, where the minute they sold, they kind of didn't feel anything. Do you feel like had you not sold it, that you would still feel depressed? Or do you feel like if you didn't sell it and you kept going in what you were doing, that you would feel any sort of joy building more?
Well, listen, I think I was driven by fear for the most part, right? I mean, that's what was driving me, waking me up every day, was a fear that it would go away. Every morning I would wake up and first thing I would think about were the people who told me I couldn't do it. That was my main driver. Like, just proving all these people wrong. And I mean, I was on a trip, 2 weeks ago with a buddy of mine who had sold his company 2 years ago. And he's like, I've been wanting to talk to you, man. I'm just like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm so depressed. And I'm like, oh, I know, and it's the same story every single time. And I always get down to, which is amazing for me because even with my book, like everything I go through, I'm so introspective and I just try to tackle my life lessons. And then the minute I tackle a life lesson, someone just calls me up and they're like, hey man, I'm dealing with this. Well, I can help them because I experienced the exact same thing. And everything I do, it's so funny. I get a phone call like a month later and it's like, how do I do this? So it's just how the world works.
Yeah. It's definitely very fascinating. So how would you define success today after you've had all of those experiences? What's success to you now?
Well, success to me is now service. If I can change someone's life just in a small way, that's success. I mean, I love watching people grow. Like when I see someone transform their life, that to me is the greatest feeling. So, and that's really what I want to do in this world now, is just kind of help guide people a little bit any way I can, even if I'm a witness to their success or witness to their transformation. That just like turns me on. So that's, to me, success is helping other people grow and transform their lives.
That's beautiful. So back then, what were you normalizing that wasn't so healthy? Like what was normal to you when you were hustling?
Fear. Constantly fear. Like the amount of fear I had every single day. Like we worked with like Meta and TikTok, all these different platforms. If one of them said, we don't want you on our platform anymore, our company was done. That was it. And they were doing that all the time to companies. I don't know how we got through without them doing that to us, even though we were following their rules, but they were very finicky. So I was afraid constantly that something was going to be turned off. I traveled the world, like I was gone 3 weeks out of every month, just training people, sales calls, opening offices, all driven by this like need to be successful, and need to prove to the world and really to myself that I'm not a complete shitbag, and that's really how I felt. So I was driving most of the company through that fear, and the employees, they felt it, I mean, they looked at me as like a really ambitious person, but ambition is a tricky subject, it might look like, oh, he's an ambitious person. the reality is he's just driven by fear, something deep inside where he doesn't feel the value that he really has.
Do you think that your fear stems from anything in childhood? Because I think fear is such an interesting subject. Me today, I have a few fears, that I still haven't tackled. I try to tackle as many fears as I can because nobody wants to live that way. It's just so depressing to constantly be fearful of something, whether that's dying, whether that's not succeeding, whether that's dying alone, whatever it is. So, and when I sit with my fears today, I can trace a lot of them back to my childhood. And that's always some interesting work. So do you have any stories from your childhood where you think some of that fear stems from?
Yeah, all your fears come from your childhood. From that like 8 to 16, that's where you, Jackie, are really just a voice of that,
Yep.
and all those voices in your head, dude, they're like, for me, I'm 50. So they're like 40 years old. I'm like listening to these idiots in my head all the time who are like these little kids who are just telling me, who they are and what they think. So I love internal family systems. It's that kind of, I don't know if you've ever done that, but this guy, Dick Schwartz, who's a psychiatrist, kind of invented this, and it's a form of therapy where you look at the different parts of yourself. So you have these firefighters who are just like your ragers who try to protect these little parts of you. Okay, so I have this little part of me, call him like little Pete or whatever you want, right? Who is scared constantly. It's like scared of running out of money, scared of just whatever it is. And then the protector, the man for me, kind of comes in and was just like, shut the fuck up. I got this. You're an idiot. Just like, and kind of runs my life. So all of those things that I have that are driving me, yeah, they come from my childhood. So I had a super successful father or grandfather. No one in my family sat down and said, you need to be just like him. Dude, I spent my entire life chasing him, trying to be as big as him and as successful as him. And all my self-worth depended on that. And so yes, like, I mean, literally every single thing that I do is driving back to that. And, when I think about myself as like a people pleaser, like I want to please people. I'm horrible at customer success because of that. Like, don't put me on that team. And that's driven back to like, when you don't feel value within yourself, then you try to be someone who people value, which is,
Just say that again. That was good.
yeah, well, when you're young and you're trying to be someone who people value, it's very different than living from value, And I didn't see my value for a large part of my life, and that authenticity that comes along with feeling value, dude, it's the most powerful thing in the universe. I mean, it's so strong,
Yeah.
and that's what people are attracted to. And so when you spend your life trying to, have people value you, what your motivations, your ambition, all that stuff is driven by just trying to get people to like you, which is, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. It's like if you try to please everyone, you'll please no one.
Exactly.
It's
There's only
impossible.
one person to please.
Yourself.
It's yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So earlier you talked about how you have these two voices, right? You have the scared little boy who's like, oh my God, I need to be successful. I'm scared. I'm not going to make it. And then you have the other voice, the man saying, shut up, you're an idiot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the angel and devil on your shoulder a
Yeah.
little bit. That's how I picture it. So how are you able to manage those voices now? Because as humans, we all have our inner thoughts just constantly circulating.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the best way to quiet your mind, of course, is meditation and things like that. But what works for you now?
Yeah, so that is a big piece of it. Like, you have to do meditation. I have to do meditation. I have to do breath work. I have to do things that strengthen, my prefrontal cortex, which is your reasoning. It's like, okay, you create a story in your mind, right? And then it instantly becomes true. These stories are not true. Like 99% of the stories that you make up are false.
Yeah.
Your prefrontal cortex is the one that kind of is the gauge there. It's like, oh, well, maybe. I'm not sure if that's true. If you have a weak prefrontal cortex, then that default mode network that just like creates these crazy stories, it's going to take over and it's going to push that down. So meditation, breath work, anything to strengthen your prefrontal cortex is so important to do. But, I saw a story of yours recently where you were like, you're the veto those voices.
Yeah.
I do the exact same thing constantly. And I have mantras. I always use mantras. And I have a mantra that says, don't go there. So if I have a story in my head about my wife or somebody or something, that's just destructive. And it's the loops that just happen. And that's what the default mode network does. It creates these loops. I have a mantra and I just say, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. And I'll say it 50 times in a row. And then eventually your mind just says, that's worthless. And it gives up and it stops. 5 minutes later, the story might come back in. I keep doing it, keep doing it. Then eventually it just stops. So the minute I hear a story in my head, I just don't go there. It's just because your mind can easily go down these negative paths, and it's bullshit. It's not real. They're just stories you make up, you know.
So true. The mantras are so good, because I feel like when you repeat the same thing over and over again, most of us on a daily basis as humans, we repeat things that aren't serving us. We're repeating a lot of negative things and we don't even realize it. It's like subconscious, you know, we're just going about our day thinking all these thoughts. So it's like, if you're gonna think thoughts over and over again, you might as well think things that are going to serve you. So it's like how do we replace the bad thoughts with the good thoughts? We have to consciously know that we're doing that.
Dude, it is a constant process. And you have control of your brain. You really do. But you have to do the work to do it.
Yeah.
You know? And I can easily go down negative thought patterns, you know, like go watch a YouTube video that like infuriates you and then go watch another one. You're training your mind, you know, to have that thought pattern, the way you're thinking. I just refuse to let that happen to me now, you know? And when I started to understand how the brain actually works, like literally from the minute you visually see something going through the different systems, I was like, oh my God, I'm not having that conscious thought until like 2 or 3 seconds after all these things are physically happening inside my body. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to control that more, because it's such it puts a negative impact on everyone. And you know, you love manifestation. I mean, that is manifesting. Like when you're controlling your thoughts and you're making sure that the relationships that you have in your life are driven from a really strong core and just a grounded place, you're manifesting better outcomes for the people around you, which is more powerful than manifesting $1 million.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you realize all of this? Like when you say that, yes, we are in control of our own thoughts. Do you have an exact moment in your life? Maybe it was an experience you had where you're like, wow, I don't have to live this way. I'm in control of my thoughts. Was there a light bulb moment?
Yeah, there was a light bulb moment. So when I sold my company, I go into this deep depression. My wife's uncle, who's just a spiritual gangster. The dude lives in India and sits with his guru for a month. He wouldn't call him a guru, but his teacher. And he came up to Michigan where I was. I hadn't seen the guy in years. And he walked up to me and he looked at me and he's like, dude, you're miserable. And I wouldn't have admitted that to anyone, but I was like, dude, I'm miserable. And he said, do my 5-week course. And then when we're done, you can give me free business advice. I'm like, done. His 5-week course is grueling. Like you're waking up super early every morning. You're meditating. You're doing breath work. You're journaling. You do it at night. It is a constant 24/7 for 5 weeks doing this practice. And it's really called living from vision, because you wake up in the morning and you're like, how do I want to think, feel, and behave today? You think about it. You meditate on it. You journal about it. At the end of the day, you reflect on your day. Did I do what I wanted to do? What didn't go well? You know, what did go well? More as like a post-mortem to, you know, say, I don't want to repeat those things the next day. And I realized that after like a week, all my bad thoughts were going away because I was so focused on how I want to feel and be that I left no room for negative thoughts. And, you know, what you focus on grows. And I was just focused on thinking this way. And I was like, oh, shit, I can change the way I think. And then I started to do research and studying like how the brain works and what the amygdala does and, you know, thalamus does and all these different things. And I was like, oh, I'm just a chemical reaction that's happening. and can I control that in a way to improve my life? And you can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about that we really can change the course of not only our day, our second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, but our weeks, our months, our years, and our whole lives.
Yes.
Just with the power of what we think.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, that's not true. Well, okay. Literally, that's part of your brain telling you that because it wants to keep you stuck in that place. You know, you're used to it. And, you know, there's this thing which I know you know is about neuroplasticity, you know, and it's like you think that way because you've thought that way for such a long time. And
Yeah.
it's almost like a road. You have all these roads in your brain, and that road is well worn, dude. It's just like you run it every day. 95% of your thoughts are the same thoughts you had yesterday, right? And so it's just constantly worn. But neuroplasticity is the ability for your brain to make these new connections, neuroconnections, and we have the ability to do that. But it takes work. Like it's not easy, but you have to be dedicated, and once you start to do it, and you're like, oh my God, I can change my thoughts. Yeah, it's not that hard. It takes a couple days, but I can do it. And that's the neuroplasticity of your brain.
And you know what, to all the skeptics out there, I get it, right? We're skeptical about all sorts of things. There's so many conspiracy theories and things out there.
Yeah.
This is what I will say to challenge that. The placebo effect, a real thing in science, right? If you believe in science, you're not into the woo-woo stuff, that's okay. Doctors, there's so many studies out there. They give a fake pill to all these people, and all of a sudden, a big percentage of those people get better.
Mm-hmm.
I've even heard, don't quote me on this because I haven't looked into the research of this, but I even heard that there was a study done somewhere where like they pretended to do surgery on people. It's like they put them to sleep, they gave them anesthesia, and they pretended to operate on a certain amount of people, but didn't actually operate. And those people healed from whatever they were needing to get operated on.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, that is the power of your thoughts. That's literally your thoughts vibrating and creating a different reality. So the placebo effect is what I always go back to. If I ever start to doubt something, I'm like, nope, it's real. You can heal yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I can get really woo-woo on you because
Please.
I don't want to scare people off, but because I've experienced so many things in my life where I'm like, it doesn't make sense, right? I've seen people get healed like on retreats where it's just like makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then, some of these things that I've been to, they actually bring like UC San Diego's research team come in to be like, what is happening here? They can't even understand what's happening, but they see it's happening, right? But a lot of times when I'll do a podcast or something and I'll post something online, I'll get the comments like, dude, it's not that easy. And I'm like, no, it's not that easy. Like it takes a lot of work. You have to be dedicated to this stuff, but you can do it. And it's so wild when you think about like what happens, like when your brain makes up these stories, like why is it doing it and how it's doing it? All of that happens within less than 1 second, where you see something, it sends it to the amygdala, tells your body, react this certain way. Then it sends it to the hippocampus. Have I had memories of this in the past? Oh, yes. Then it goes to default mode network, creates a story. Then the left hemisphere creates this absolute crazy ass story about what happens. Mm-hmm. And your consciousness takes it as fact, And then your prefrontal cortex says, okay, well, maybe not. And that's why it's important to have a strong prefrontal cortex.
And that happens in a second.
Less than a second. Everything that I described up until the point when you said, oh my gosh, that person hates me, that's about 2 seconds before that conscious thought gets to your body. Mm-hmm. So you have been overtaken. You feel it in your bones, your heart rate goes up. All these things are happening before you've even realized that you think that person hates you. Now, why does our brain do that? Well, because we need it for survival. Mm-hmm. If you think about like caveman times, if we just walked around and be like, oh, nothing here can hurt me, you'd be eaten. Yeah. But the left hemisphere of our brain is constantly going, I bet there's a lion behind that tree. I bet there's a lion right there. And it protects us. And that's really what it's doing. And even the stories and, those different parts of yourself, the firefighter, the little kid, whatever you want to call them, they're there to protect you, because they want you to survive. And, when you see someone who gives you a weird look, you're like, oh, that person hates me. Mm-hmm. And you create this story around it. It's for protection, survival, Otherwise, you'd just be eaten alive by everyone.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the whole fight or flight and survival. Yeah, in our lifetime, we weren't in caves running from tigers, but we remember the remembering. Yeah. We remember it because it's our ancestral traumas and things, right? Like things from not our lifetime, but just as humans in evolution, we have the fight or flight almost built inside of our DNA.
It is inside your DNA. Your past generational experiences are in your DNA. I mean, it's just, but yeah, I mean, that's just how our brain operates. And what's challenging is that when you look at evolution of our brain, body, and all that stuff, it's so slow. You're talking like milliseconds over a long period of time. Whereas, our society, our culture, dude, it's like an exponential curve. It's just going straight up. So we're not able to keep up with that, right? And that's why, that default mode network, which was super helpful when we were cavemen, now is running rampant all the time in these stupid scenarios. And, social media, all that stuff doesn't help out, but it's,
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah, doom scrolling does not help with that. That's why for me, I've unfollowed a lot of accounts that trigger that feeling in me of just negative, a lot of news accounts and things that just show things that don't make me feel very good. And you on one hand you can say that that's ignorant, and I'm like not really keeping up with what's going on in the world, and I see that side of it. And then on the other side, I go, yeah, but my day-to-days feel a little bit lighter and less dark because I'm not keeping up with that. So how about you? How do you feel? Do you agree with that? Do you
Yes.
watch stuff, the news?
No. I mean, the only thing I watch, and I'm such a nerd, I love watching Senate hearings because it's so weird because they'll bring in like the airline industry, insurance companies, all these, and they're asking questions that that reporters can't ask, right? Because they have to answer these questions. So I learn a lot about industries. So that's why I watch it. I think it's fascinating. But you're right. The news cycle, dude, they're there to make money. It is no longer news anymore. It's like, how many times can I get someone to watch something? And the more infuriated you get, the more you're going to watch that thing. So it's a really dangerous cycle that we get into. And so you're not less, up to speed on what's going on in the world. You're just choosing not to like infuriate yourself, because the people who do that, and listen, I got stuck in that for a while as well. The people who do that, they're addicted to that feeling.
Yeah.
Period. Your body is addicted to those stress hormones that are being released. They're super powerful. And so when you say, "Hey, I'm not going to do this anymore," it's amazing that you were able to do that, because what happens the next day is your body's like starving for those, cortisol, adrenaline, the feelings that you used to get, and it's like, where are those things? And then your mind's like, oh yeah, like I used to do that. That's where I got it. And then your body's like, well, can I have some more? And it's like, yeah, we'll start this no news thing like tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And then we just go into it. And so when people, comment, they're like, dude, it's not that hard. Yeah, no shit, it's not that hard. Or no shit, it's hard. I mean, it's very hard because your body, you're fighting an addiction in your body.
Well, what's funny? What I replaced that with, now that I'm thinking about it, is reality TV. It's like the drama of it all, but a little different. But still, it's like it kind of gives you a little bit of that drama without it being so depressing.
Correct. That's a great replacement, right? Because you're not being infuriated by the news cycle. It's still dopamine, which
absolutely,
which is fine. But
what I say, it's like I'm very much still aware that I'm in the Matrix and I'm a human being living here. And sometimes I just want to do Matrix stuff and I want to watch Love is Blind and just cry with them.
That's the key. So you are consciously aware of what you're doing. That is the first. That is the first and most important, really only step. Because I'll do those things too, and I'll see a news thing for a second. I'm consciously aware I am making this choice to do this, and
exactly.
I'm aware that it's going to make me infuriated, and I'm choosing to do that.
Yeah, I even feel the same way about certain music, low vibrational stuff, where the lyrics may not be what I align with or what I want to do in my daily life, and yet there's some songs that are just so catchy and they're so good, and I'm singing along in the car, and it's so not what I would ever do in my life, and yet I'm consciously making that choice. And I'm able to make that distinction between, okay, I know this may not be the most high vibrational thing right now, but it's okay. I'm okay with that right now. And then after this, I'll go meditate or whatever I need to do.
But listen, the goal of us on this planet is not to be the monk on the mountain.
Yeah.
Perfect stillness and perfect thoughts all the time. No, dude, your soul came here because it wants to experience everything, Now it wants to grow. It came here for life lessons that you need to learn. And, but yeah, you want to feel it all. You want to feel anger and sadness and, joy. Those are all divine emotions that are guiding you down a path. And when you feel that anger, when you watch a news cycle, that's a street sign flashing at something. It's like, dude, maybe that's not good for me, or maybe there's something there that I should avoid, or whatever it is. But yeah, just being consciously aware of that is the most important thing.
Yeah, and when you say we're not all meant to be, a monk on a mountain, I actually talk about that a lot. Where I think about how I'm such a spiritual being, and I love learning about that world, right, and being in touch with my spirituality and my higher self. And sometimes I have conversations with people about it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think everyone is meant to be enlightened in this lifetime and become a monk and just renounce everything and just get rid of all their material possessions and just meditate all day. I think there are people that are meant for that life, and they are there, and they are our teachers and our guides. And then there's people like me and you who want to either start a company, write a book, start a podcast, live, watch TV, do whatever we want to do. And so I don't think it has to be one extreme or the other. You don't have to be completely in a low vibrational toxic state watching the news being angry all day, and you don't have to be a monk on the mountain, right? There's balance, and there's the middle way, which is the Zen term, the middle way. And I'm really big on the middle way. How do we find the middle? How do you find the middle?
I love that. That's a great way to think about that. My buddy wrote a book recently called The Center, and that's kind of the same concept. It was more on the political side, but yeah, I agree with you. I don't think, listen, some people are meant to be the monk on the mountain.
Yeah.
Dalai Lama, like that is why his soul came to this earth. I don't think anyone's meant to be like super low vibrational. I think they've kind of, I don't want to say failure is the wrong word. It is not failure, because it doesn't matter what you do. Do whatever you want. I believe you're just going to be doing this life over again. Like, I believe in reincarnation. And so, I think that if you don't learn your lessons now, you're just going to have to go back and do it again. And that's why I charge at life so much, because I'm like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I know I'm going to do it again, but I want to do it again differently. Like, I don't want to have to do the same things. Like, people keep hitting the same doors over and over again. And eventually the universe just like smacks you in the face with a 2x4. It's like, dude, wake the fuck up. Like, we've been doing this so long. It's trying to teach you your lessons. And I think the middle ground is good, but I don't know. I think that if I were the monk on the mountain and I die, I think my soul would be like, dude, why did we do that? Like, you didn't do anything here. You didn't learn your lessons. You didn't, because the minute I learn a lesson, I'm like, oh man, God, that lesson, I just learned that thing. Well, the very next day, I have another major life lesson that I have to learn. It never ends. And so if I become the monk on the mountain, just, one with nature, one with everything, dude, I think my soul would be like, well, that was kind of a waste, man. You didn't really grow your soul, And so, and that's the only way to do it, is just to conquer your life lessons.
What was the last lesson that you learned?
Oh man, it is constant. The last lesson that I learned was, okay, so I actually did this recently, well, first of all, surrender has always been my life lesson. It's just different levels of surrender constantly. And I think that was my first lesson that I really learned. Okay, I'll give an example with one of my daughters. She was going through something at school, and even though I know better, I still allow myself to sometimes let my children be a reflection of me. They're not a reflection of me. They are their own beautiful souls, and whatever they do is perfect for their own life lesson. And I was trying to take away her life lesson from her, trying to solve her issues, which is the wrong thing to do, right? Because you can't take away someone's life lessons. What they learn from that is way more than me trying to take that from them or teach them. And so I think the lesson was just realizing that people suffering is a good thing. Everyone needs to suffer, and that's how you learn and grow. And it's not my place to take away that suffering from someone.
That's tough as a parent. I know that growing up, my parents did everything they could to ease any suffering that I had. To this day, they would give their arms and legs to help me not suffer, and I'm sure you would do the same. So, how do you navigate that as a parent when all you want to do is make sure your kids are happy and good?
Yeah, we have 5 kids, and so we have a lot of opportunities to learn this. I go back to what my mom always said when I was a kid. she'd always say, I'm your mother, not your best friend,
Hmm.
you know? And that's a huge distinction, because as your father, my goal is to shepherd you towards the person that you're capable of being. And listen, I've seen my kids fall on their face, you know, and I love it when I see people fall on their faces, typically, because from that comes transformation and growth. And so that's really, I think, what I've done in the past is just allowed them to yeah, just make their own mistakes. But you know, again, when you learn something, it's not like it's like set in stone, dude. It's like I keep finding myself, dude, you're doing that again. You know, it's like with my daughter recently, where I was trying to take away her suffering. It's like I know better, you know. Um, but you have to tell them too all the time. It's like I'm not your best friend, you know, and I'm here to tell you the truth about things, and you know, and it might be painful, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard.
I bet. I'm
Yeah.
not a parent, but I can only imagine. I see what my parents have done for me, and I'm sure your kids are very grateful.
Yeah, they are, but there's no manual to this
Yeah.
stuff. You know, as a kid, I was like my father was very hard on me, and you know, for a long time in my life, I was just like kind of like resentful for that.
Hmm.
And then I started to have kids, and I'm like, dude, you're amazing. Like, how did you even get through all this stuff? And I had
Hmm.
such a better perspective of his, you know, and he didn't have the emotional intelligence or experience that I had, you know, and
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of blown away by him, you know.
What do you wish to pass on or teach to your kids that you didn't get from your parents?
You know, I don't know if I didn't get this from my parents. You know, I probably just didn't listen to my parents. They probably were saying this. I just didn't hear it. But the most important thing for them is to really sink into their authenticity. Like, if you're different, if you're weird, go deeper into that, because that is uniquely you,
I love that.
and that is the most important thing. You know, and so my wife and I champion our kids' uniqueness constantly, and when we see them kind of trying to go with the herd, we're always like, don't go with the herd. Like, you know, be the weird person, and that's what people are attracted to ultimately.
That is so beautiful.
Mm.
I think it's so important to be who you are. And you know that term black sheep, it almost has a negative connotation to it. I very much was the black sheep in my family. You know, I was the one that wanted the piercings, the tattoos, the green hair, and all this stuff, just to like stand out somehow, listen to different music. I was very different. And society looks at, I think, the black sheep and things like, oh, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you like everybody else? Why do you have to be different? But there is something to it where it's like, I think we just want to express our uniqueness and we don't know how, especially at a young age. It's so much easier, I think, when you're an adult to kind of get into yourself a little bit. So I think it's beautiful that you're teaching that to your kids. It's going to make their life so much easier.
Yeah, I was the black sheep within my family, you know, and you know, the reality is, were you really the black sheep, or did you feel like the black sheep?
Right.
You know, but my wife and I work with this guy Jim George out of Venice, and he's again another just spiritual gangster. This guy, so he can talk about how the body works and just, you know, like, read your energy, and he'll tell you what the construction of an asteroid is. Like, he's a brilliant guy. But he's also an artist. Used to be an artist for Disney back in the day. He's like 70 now. And during these conversations we have, he'll hand you a card, and that card will be something that he's drawn with a little message on it. And it's a black sheep standing there looking over his shoulder, kind of like looking at these white sheep who are jumping off a cliff, and they're all just jumping off a cliff. And it says, sometimes it's good to be the black sheep, you know?
Yeah.
And I keep that in my closet. I look at it every day, and I'm like, the best thing to do is be the black sheep.
I love that. What would you say is the most unique thing about you that is solely yours, that's nobody else has except Peter Kennedy?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that I love personal growth. Like, I love this stuff. I wake up every day and I just like I charge at looking at my life lessons, and I'm so introspective about all this stuff. And and so I think that to me, I think there's only one of me in this world that goes as hard as I do, you know, and and when I start to understand how the body works and where I want to get to in this lifetime, um, dude, if you watch me do breath work, I do it harder than anyone else in the room. You know, I charge at it. this scar on my forehead was from breath work recently. I have to do it lying down because I will pass out just the way I do it. And I had a 5 minute or a call, and I had 5 minutes before the call, and I was like, I'm just gonna do breath work real quick. And I literally was at my desk, passed out, hit the corner of my desk, and blood, like the Zoom starts, blood is just pouring down my face.
That's intense.
Yes. So it's there's a level of intensity that I go at this stuff. But it's based off the framework that I operate with. Like I've done it through plant medicine. I've seen this stuff, my own experience, really the purpose of my soul here. And I'm trying to do a good job for my soul, honestly, and just trying to identify my life lessons and go at them. And I'm going to do it hard.
You got the scars to prove it.
I got the scars to prove it. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of intensity, I actually want to go back to when you were, hustling and building up to sell your company. Outside of those long hours and traveling and things that you were doing, what would you say is the hardest part of attaining that level of success that most people don't realize? Because everyone knows long hours is part of it, right? But what's that other thing, that secret sauce?
Yeah, the drive, everyone thinks the drive, like you look at these super successful CEOs, way more successful than me, and you look at their drive and you're like, I don't have that. How did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have that. Like everyone's so unique. What drives Elon Musk is like, it's not normal. So you're not trying to be like that person. And what was driving me was trying to prove my worth, really. And so that's very unique to me. So whatever that driver is for you, just don't worry about the drive. It will come. When you find the passion, it'll come. The hardest part of starting a company and selling it to be, in terms of success in that way, is the sale. I mean, it is grueling and impossible. Starting a company, coming up with an idea, executing, that's easy. It's like anyone can really do that. But getting to a point where you can actually, it's valuable enough for a publicly traded company to buy you, and then going through that due diligence period, you have your investors, you have their lawyers, everyone is trying to just eat you alive. And it takes the entire company to get through that process. We had 120 employees. We would have gone bankrupt if the sale didn't go through, because we had put everything at this thing. And so that to me is the hardest part, The long hours and all that stuff, like when you're in it and you're driven by whatever you're driven by, it's nothing. It's just part of the game, So
Yeah.
yeah, and in that due diligence piece too, it's a mental battle, because everyone's trying to eat your lunch, and can you stay clear and focused on really what your end goal is, and not get distracted by just everyone trying to steal from you.
Do you feel like one of the stressful parts of having such a big company is that you are responsible for other people's paychecks and livelihood?
Oh yeah, like everyone. Yeah.
Was that something that you thought about constantly?
Constantly. I would keep me up at nights because we didn't have money a lot of times. Like we eventually raised like money from venture capital, but like for a long time, I would fund the company or we'd scrape by this, and our employees had no idea that a paycheck was not going to come like in a week, unless we figured something out. And so we had a really good kind of executive team around me, and that helped a lot. But yes, that was extremely stressful. Just everything about the company relied on you. Like in the last couple of years, like I had this woman, Liza Trueblood, and she was just this amazing executive assistant. She had me booked from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 p.m. No break. She'd bring in lunch for me, and I would just eat at my desk, and it was just nonstop. And then I'd be traveling constantly, and but the more I was doing that, the further along we got, the more success felt real. And so, I didn't mind it. I wanted more of it. But yeah, the stress is outrageous.
So if someone's in the weeds of that right now, let's say they are, they have a somewhat successful business, they're grinding, they're stressed about paying their employees, but, they see some traction. What kind of advice would you give to somebody in that position right now?
You just have to keep going. Literally, the only difference between someone who's successful in business and someone who is not, you were too stupid to stop. Period. Like you just keep going until until literally you just go bankrupt. If that's your goal. I mean, I'm not saying that this is like what you should do
You
in
heard
life.
it here first.
No.
Go bankrupt.
No. My point is like that. That's not really what you probably should do.
Mm-hmm.
But it all goes down to values and behavior. I know everything about you, Jackie, by looking at your behaviors. I know all your values. Okay. And so, for me, I spend a lot of time looking at my values, and I could say like my number one value is my relationship with my wife. But then I might walk in the room and she'll say something, then I'll say something. But my number one value is not my relationship with my wife because my behavior doesn't show that. So if it is, then I need to change my values. And so when it comes to business, it's like, if your number one value is, I want to be successful at this business, then your behavior will follow and you'll do anything it takes. Mm-hmm. But if you find yourself, not putting in the hours and not doing the things that you need to do, your number one value is not having a successful business, which is totally fine. But don't say that your number one value is that. Mm-hmm. You have to change the order if it's not.
Do you think that, yeah, it does. Yeah. Do you think that anybody can start a business, or do you think that it's meant for some people and it's absolutely not meant for others?
I think anyone can start a business. Anyone can. I went to business school and I was in like the entrepreneurial program, and every time like some successful entrepreneur would come into the room and he'd be like, let me tell you what, some of you are entrepreneurs and some of you are not. I'm like, dude, what are you talking? Anyone can be an entrepreneur if they really want to be. Mm-hmm. But it really comes down again to your values and behavior, and also kind of like how your body responds to stress. Because being an entrepreneur mm-hmm. is very, very stressful. And there were times in my life where I did work for a big company. I was bored out of my mind. Like, I wouldn't want that. It would be like a prison sentence for me. And then there would be times where I'd be like in the business and we'd be running out of money and my stress level is like 1,000,000 degrees. And then I would sit there and be like, actually I'd work with coaches and stuff and they'd be like, dude, you like this. You can say how much you hate this and how stressful it is, but like you wouldn't want it the other way. You wouldn't want a job where there's no stress and, there's no huge success down the line. You like this. So stop being a baby. Just like admit that you like this thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I started to do. And so that's my advice to other people too. It's just like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, be it, but it's stressful, dude. And so if you can't handle that, then maybe you don't want to do that. Values and behaviors, look at that.
Do you feel like that, earlier we were talking about, addiction to something like watching the news or feeling some type of way, you kind of get addicted to that feeling and you want it over and over again. When they said to you, you like that you like the stress, don't lie, you like it. Do you feel like a part of that was just an addiction to stress? Like, would you like that today? Would you like that feeling now?
No. To me, that wasn't an addiction for me. I think it's more my tolerance levels. Like my wife, her tolerance level with that stuff is like 1. Like, mine's like 1,000,000. I can, our house burns down. Like I saw this when our house burned down in the Palisades fire, and I saw how people react. And 2 months after the fire, I talked to a friend of mine who was still in a hotel. He was in freeze mode. Within 48 hours, I had a long-term rental. I had an architect. I had a builder. I had all these different things. My system goes into this go mode. It's just how my body reacts and how my nervous system reacts to things. So, I don't necessarily like that feeling. I don't seek out that like maybe people who jump out of airplanes do. Mm-hmm. But I'm able to handle it. And so I think that it's just a tolerance level.
That's a good way to put it. It's just, and it's also being able to just remain calm in high stress situations, which some people, I think that all people are capable of. But again, you have to do the work, right? If you practice staying calm in high stress situations, then when a high stress situation comes, it's a little bit easier to remain calm. So do you feel like you were always like that just as a kid going into adulthood?
Yeah. I could handle a lot, like during COVID, my wife never drank and she went to rehab because she became a raging alcoholic. So we had 5 kids, wife's in rehab. We had no housekeeper, no babysitters, no nothing. I had a company to run. I mean, it would break most people. And I was able to just like charge through this, and just head down. And I remember I got COVID. Everyone in our family had COVID while she was gone. And at one point, I was walking up the stairs and I just like fell down and collapsed. And I called my doctor. I'm like, oh shit, I think, like, do I need to go to the hospital? I can't breathe. And he was like, what were you doing? I was like, oh, I was downstairs doing laundry and I was carrying it all up. He's like, dude, just fucking stop. Like, like just chill out, and so I think that I get to a point where I'll just put a million rocks in my backpack until I eventually fall over. But I think I have a pretty big backpack with those things.
Every now and then you got to put the backpack down, right? Take a little rest.
Yeah, no, I mean that's part of my life lesson now is just like removing things that don't serve me, and it might be uncomfortable for other people when I remove those rocks from my backpack. But I going back to your kind of the middle, I need to get to a place where I'm more in the middle, and I'll keep loading it up, and then people around me suffer, and so I try not to do that.
It's an interesting concept, even just for somebody out there who wants to take an actual backpack, fill it with a bunch of rocks, walk a lot, right? And then when you get tired, you could take some rocks out, and that's really a good metaphor for like just unloading things out of your life that no longer serve you. You don't need, maybe this rock right here is this thing you've been dealing with, or this other rock is this person you have in your life that you don't really need anymore. Just take it out. Now your backpack's a little bit lighter, and then you just keep on going on your trail.
Yeah, I work with this amazing woman who's a somatic therapist, and her name's Conchetta Trotsky, and she's incredible. And she was the one who visualized that for me originally. And she's like, you keep putting these rocks in your backpack, and then you tip over, and I'm like, that's true metaphor, like, and it's so true. And it's so funny. I keep putting the same rocks in my backpack. I'll take them out, put them back in, and it's like
they're familiar rocks.
They're familiar, and it's like looking at that pattern. It's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
and people love it when you do because it's like you're solving their problems, but
and creating more problems for yourself while solving.
Why? Because I can't say no.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the term ikigai, which is a Japanese term. You talk about it in your book. I love that term. I've looked into it. I've read it. So for those that don't know about ikigai, I want you to just define it, and then we can kind of go into what that all means.
Yeah, it's really looking at what are your passions in this life, and what are your skills that you have. How can you apply those skills to something that is going to change the world, help a lot of people, and where you can make money, right? Because we need money in order to survive in this world, and that really is your ikigai. It's finding your passion through your skills that can help a lot of people, and you can make money. And that's really, I think historically I didn't care about elements of like helping other people. It was more like, how can I like make a lot of money and, use the skills I have. And when you bring in the other piece of helping other people and being of service to others, yeah, it's a really remarkable feeling. And that's kind of what we're doing at my new company. We pivoted. We're kind of in the aviation hospitality space. Doesn't sound like you really help people. We help them through our app, but more importantly, it's really our company. Like, we put personal growth of our employees above profits. Like, we send them on week-long retreats, and we do breath work and meditation every single week, and we do check-ins, and we're really of service to these employees, and so yeah, that's it. Ikigai is something that everyone should do. You can download an app for it. You can have ChatGPT like run you through the process, but it's finding your purpose in life.
That's beautiful, because I think that, there are some of us are born and we're lucky enough to just know what our purpose and passion is. We just have a thing we're obsessed with, and it's what we want to do. And then there's other people who through middle school, high school, even college, they're like, I don't know, I'm just going to take a bunch of classes and then I'll just find a job, and they have no idea. So how can someone figure out what their life purpose is?
So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Okay. So the first is the easiest way. Dude, start getting really still. Like, do breath work, do meditation, because what you're doing is you're shutting off that default mode network that's just telling you to go get your dry cleaning and do all these different things. You have to get really quiet and still with yourself to understand what truly sets your soul on fire. The other thing that you can do, which I do, is I'll let the universe punch me in the face as hard as it possibly can. And I do that by going on retreats, like really difficult retreats. Like, I sat in a dark cave, pitch blackness for a couple days, or go into the jungles of Brazil and go do some plant medicine. you'll see your life purpose and you'll see where you're kind of messing up in life and really the road that you need to be on. So, so that's how I do it, but yeah, meditation, breath work, whatever, qigong, whatever works for you, just keep doing that, or start doing that. And then you'll get really clear on what your purpose is.
I think there's a lot of people who are probably afraid to figure out what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And that may be because, if let's say you've been at a job for 10 years doing whatever it is that you're doing, and you're content, it's fine, you're getting money, you're helping people, whatever. But the moment that you sit down and you'd figure out what your purpose is, if it doesn't align with the thing that you're doing, now there's fear. Do I quit my job? Do I go all in on this passion and purpose? Maybe it's, making pottery or something like that. And it's just completely different from being a teacher or whatever you were doing. And I think that the reason a lot of people don't go down that path of finding out what their purpose is because it's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. Listen, you make decisions based out of love or fear. That's it, And so I do that as a gauge every time I make a decision about something. Am I doing this out of love, abundance, love for myself or someone else? Or am I doing it because I'm afraid that if I don't do this, someone's going to get mad or I'm going to lose money or whatever it is. So I do that as a gauge. But it really comes down to values and behaviors again. Yes, it is scary to go do something. And so if you're more comfortable being in this job that you don't really like and you're just kind of content, your number one value is being in that job and being content. Mm-hmm. Number one value. Your behavior shows it clearly. So it's fine if that's your number one value. Stay with it. But don't say, well, my real goal is to do this. That's not your real goal. You can change that. You could have your real goal be go after your purpose, but you got to change your behavior for that. And so I think a lot of people, I love when people write value boards because they're super clear. This is my number one value. And now I can track my behavior to that. But 99% of the time, people are just lying to themselves.
Yeah.
It's I want to find my passion and my purpose. Well, what do? I'm at this job that I hate. How long have you been there? 20 years. It's dude, that's not your number one value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe their number one value is just stability, right? And providing for their family.
Totally fine.
Yeah, and
totally
that's okay.
Fine.
That's
it's
okay.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
But you're creating a lot of suffering for yourself if you're not clear of where you currently are.
What would you say is one small step that someone could take to start realigning to find their purpose and passion? That's a small step. That's not scary. It's not quitting your job and just figuring it out. What's a little everyday thing?
This is the number one step everyone needs to do. Understand where you are today, period. Because if you're I want to get over there eventually, well, how do you know where that is if you don't know where you are right now? And so get very clear on what your values are. Write them all down. Values in relationship, values in job, values in all these things. And then rank order those values. And then be very clear about okay, my number one value is security. Fantastic, great. Are you happy with that? No, I'm not happy with that. I want a little more risk in my life. I want to be passionate about something. Well, put that as your number one value. And then everything that you do, make sure your behavior tracks to that value. Because if it's not tracking to that value, that's not your number one value. But the first step always is understand where you are and be super honest with yourself. Stop lying to yourself about what your values really are.
I like what you said about writing down your values in different areas of your life. So there's multiple pillars, right, that someone can write. So what is there? There's work or career, family, relationships. What else is there?
Yeah, money, spirituality. Literally every category that you can imagine, there is that. Now, I still have my top 5 that I look at every single day, and I think about those. Number one is my relationship with my wife, constantly. When I walk into the room with her, I have a mantra: number one value, my wife and me. Number one value, my wife and me. Because even if she's in a bad mood and she snaps at me, I don't give a shit because my number one value is our relationship. And then number two value is my children. But my wife and I can't be good parents if we're not together.
Yeah.
And so it's just this cascade effect, down to, and helping other people and all that.
So beautiful. The ikigai, something that we should all sit down and think about. And if you have it, if you know what your ikigai is, you're blessed. And if you don't, you can figure it out.
Yeah, and if you know what yours is today, great. But like in 5 years, 10 years, like it'll be totally different.
Things change all the time. I always say that. Like for me, ever since I was a little kid, I knew that I wanted to have a talk show, right? I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I have a video of me when I was 8 years old saying, I want to be I want to be like Jerry Springer or
Oh my
Jenny
God.
Jones when I was 8. Yes, my parents let me watch all that trash
Same.
TV, and they knew that I just really liked the hosting aspect of it. But that's not to say that 10 years from now, I think I'll still love this and I think I'll still do this. That's what my whole body tells me right now. That's what I feel very passionate about. But in 10 years, if I wake up one day and I go, this is no longer making me happy, I really want to I really want to go to space. I want to become an astronaut. Then that's what I'm going to do. And I think being okay with knowing that things can change is where that true sweet surrender is, where like no matter what happens, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get there. It is hard to get there because me a few years ago, I wouldn't have said something like this. I would be so adamant. My ego would say, no, I know this is what I want to do and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And today it's like, yeah, I still believe that, but I'm also okay if that changes. And
So
that is hard.
What was that shift in you? How did you make that shift?
It's I had a spiritual awakening in 2020. I started realizing that the voices in my head, that overthinking, overanalyzing, that I was in control of that. So similar to your story, when I started realizing that I'm in control of my own thoughts, my entire life changed. I've healed myself from different health ailments. I became a happier person. I started attracting better friends and partners and things like that. And just so much goodness started coming into my life. And I started manifesting so many amazing things that I just started to really kind of understand the meaning of life a little bit more. Now, do I fully understand it? No, I don't think anybody does. But I started understanding it more. And when I started really getting introspective, like you were saying, I wake up and I reflect on myself. How can I be better today? Did I say something to hurt somebody's feelings? How can I be better? What can I do differently? When all of those things kind of float around in my mind on a daily basis, so the shift is natural. It's like now I'm just okay with whatever happens. We're supposed to just experience in this lifetime. Now, before my spiritual awakening, I was very agnostic. I don't necessarily think I would say I was an atheist, but I was very much like, when you die, I don't know, like I don't think anything really happens. I didn't really believe in anything. I was just kind of like on this earth in the matrix, just living. And now I believe in reincarnation and all of these things. So I had like this complete 180. And so now surrender is just part of that. It's just part of my everyday life. Whatever happens, happens, and it's okay.
That was so beautifully said. That was like literally my entire journey as well. It's funny. It's funny people have the exact same experiences and they come up with the same realizations. But
it's like we don't know anything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that means we know a lot because we don't know anything, and we're okay with not knowing.
Yes, and that shift that I had when I realized that this is a simulation. Not in like the Matrix movie where like this is like my soul has chosen this. My soul is in me. This is 100% real. You're real. But it's a spiritual simulation, with us just here to learn our life lessons.
Yeah. And I just thought about it, but there was one thing that kind of awoke me in a sense, and it was actually a book that I read called The Untethered Soul.
Okay.
And that book, for anybody who's kind of like just trying to get out of a rut or understand how to kind of stop that overthinking or hear the voices in your head and hear what you're saying to yourself constantly, I recommend The Untethered Soul. That's the book that actually like began everything for me. And I love to read. I read a lot, which is why I have you here, and The Remembering is such a great book. But every single time I pick up a book, and it's always like some sort of self-help book or personal growth book, I become a better version of myself. And I think everybody should read.
I do too. Untethered Soul changed my life. Surrender Experiment. This is all Michael Singer.
Yeah, same.
Changed my life.
Yep.
Like I love that guy. He's so amazing.
Yeah.
I know. I'm reading 2 books right now because I have such bad ADHD that I just like get bored. So I'm reading Michael Pollan's new book on consciousness, which is fascinating.
Mm.
Understanding the source of consciousness, where it comes from, who has it. And then I'm reading Journey of Souls. If you haven't read that book,
No, I was going to
you're
say I
gonna
need your
die.
book list. I love getting people's book lists who have similar tastes to mine because I love reading. I'm also reading two books at the same time right now,
So funny.
but they're so different. I'm reading Talk Like TED, which is about TED Talks. I want to be able to do a TED Talk one day, so I'm trying to learn how to be a better communicator and speaker. And then on the other hand, I'm reading something that I've already read, but I'm reading it again because books hit different when you
What
read
is it?
them the second time. It is It's Florence Scovel Shinn is the author. She has a collection of works like Your Word is Your Wand, how the game of life and how to play it. She has a few books. So there's these 4 books into one. So it's like a collection of her books. And it's basically like a spiritual Bible in a sense. That's where I got the phrase, your word is your wand, which is my favorite phrase. I could literally tattoo it on my forehead at this point. I say it so much, but it's like you speak your reality. And so I'm rereading that book right now because the first time you read something, you read it one way, and then even the Surrender Experiment and Untethered Soul, I read a second time, and I was like, it's almost like you remember what you forgot
Yes.
before.
I just read Untethered Soul like 3 months ago again.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good. I actually read and listen to the book at the same time. Like if it's a really meaningful book, yeah, I'll listen to the podcast or listen to the audiobook and read it. So I just ingest as much as I can.
That's cool. It's like you're visually getting it in through your eyes and you're audibly getting it in through your ears at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have to exchange book.
Do you have the Remembering on audio?
I do. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So for those of you that aren't huge readers, there's some people that read and they just fall asleep. Their eyes just can't do it. You can always get the Remembering as an audiobook as well.
Yeah.
No excuses. You have to listen or read.
You got it.
So I want to just take you back to young Peter, right? When you're a little boy. If he was here in the room with us right now, what would you say to him? What would he be most proud of you today? Just give him a message.
I do this a lot actually with the different coaches and therapists that I work with, where you go back and you have conversations with these people, little selves. The number one thing I would say to him is what we talked about earlier, like don't try to be the person that people value. Just stop doing that. And I would remind myself that every year, because it's an easy trap for me to get into, but that's what I would do. And I would also I did this recently during this deep meditation I was doing with this facilitator, talking to my, inner child and seeing the light that he has and really his purpose on this earth and just how remarkable and unique that is. And it actually was an emotional experience for me because it was just, I was like, oh, he didn't even see this, dude. This poor guy. And so that's what I would kind of show him is just the worth that he brings to this planet.
I love it. You are worthy.
You're worthy. You're good. Come on, dude.
So the company you have now, you talked about just a little bit. It's called Evolve Well. So just tell everybody a little bit about it, but also anything that you're currently working on, anything that's lighting you up today.
Yeah. So Evolve Well is it's an AI platform for frontline employees, like aviation, hospitality. They have like 70 to 140% turnover with their employees. And it's like these people are leaving, they don't know why. And so our platform helps to identify that within management, but then also helps frontline employees to be happier at their job, And so that's what we're doing. And what am I crushing on now? Dude, just like trying to have every experience I can. My wife and I do retreats a lot. And so we're doing a retreat with Zach Bush's retreat in June, just, cool. In the middle of Utah's forest somewhere. And so that's what I try to do. And that's what I encourage other people to do is get uncomfortable, like run towards discomfort constantly. Cause that's where you'll find your life lessons. And so that's what my wife and I are into. Like just the minute where we get lazy on a couch, we get our ass up and we just go and just throw ourselves into something that just makes us very uncomfortable.
I love that. I'm going to have to get your book list and I'm going to have to get your retreat list.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Yeah. You might not want to do some of these. They're brutal.
I don't know about the being in the cave for 4 days. By the way, that's in the Remembering. If you want to learn about Peter being locked in a dark cave with nothing literally nothing, and a sweat lodge and all sorts of experiences that when I was reading them, I was literally feeling all of the emotions. I was feeling claustrophobic, and it's a crazy good book. So definitely check out The Remembering. Here, we'll just give it a little show. I feel like Vanna White when I do this. Check it out. I want to thank you again for being here with me today.
Yeah.
The first author I've ever had on Dare to Overshare. It's been such a pleasure, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that everybody's listening has also learned, got some gems from you. So thank you.
You've raised my vibration today. So yeah, thank you. Seriously, it's been awesome to be here with you, and I'm so excited for what you're doing and building. And yeah, you're meant for this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.